My name is Keegan. I've been an endurance athlete for a majority of my life. I'm currently 17 years old, but for the past 7 to 8 months, I've been on a low carb diet and I felt really, really good. So, the common advice for endurance athletes like myself and other sorts of general athletic endeavors is that you need to eat a lot of carbohydrates, that you need to have pasta, you need to carb load, you need to eat sugar, you need to take gels whenever you're running in order to ensure optimal performance for the best, like output possible. But I don't do that. Like I said, I've been on a low carb diet for 7 to 8 months now, and I felt way better than I've ever done on a carbohydrate rich diet. And so my goal with this video is just to explain to you why I do a low carb diet and why I think it's better for you, why I think it's better for performance, for me anyways, and maybe you should try it out. So yeah, that's basically the goal with this video. So if you do find value in this video, I'd really appreciate it if you do subscribe and do all the YouTube stuff and whatnot, but if you find value, of course. So let's get into it. The first and probably the biggest reason why I don't eat carbs as an athlete anyways is because the dude who literally coined like carb loading and came out with the idea, like he basically popularized carb loading and whatnot, Professor Tim Noakes, he has actually recently gone against that, and he's gone back and he said that he was wrong about it. And he cites the reason why is because he actually ended up getting diabetes from his own advice of a high carbohydrate diet, of eating a crap ton of carbs when you're running. And I was listening to this podcast with him, and he was just talking about he's just talking about how he kind of made that mistake, and now he promotes, like a low carb, high fat diet, and how his performance has gotten better. And he talked about studies that he was running, talking about, ketogenic diets, ketogenic athletes versus non-ketogenic athletes, and how they performed essentially the same in short-term events. And I just found that to be kind of shocking, to be honest. It's like, oh, well, that means that if I don't eat carbs, doesn't matter. And, I've also had just like personal problems with carbs in general. And this dude's basically telling me now, like, it doesn't affect performance. It doesn't really matter in the short term. Like, the athletes are basically the same. What comes down to it is basically the training that you do. And it might even favor like the keto athletes in the longer distance that you go, because I think the science what he said is like your blood sugar basically just stays like rock solid, and you burn through your fat stores, you don't go through your glycogen, and like you're just pulling from a more vast energy resource than your glycogen, which is a lot smaller in compared to your fat stores, which I just thought was pretty freaking cool. So it just kind of confirmed that belief, like, okay, then I don't need to eat carbs because of the other reasons that I had for just quitting carbs in the first place, because it made me feel kind of bad. But on the performance side of things, I actually kind of tested it out myself. I kind of split tested it a little bit, but my performance is basically the same. What it has come down to is how well I'm conditioned, like the race weight that I'm at, et cetera, et cetera. Because back when I was eating carbs, yes, it was at my peak, like speed and whatnot, but I was also like 10 pounds lighter. I was a lot lighter. I was a lot more conditioned. I had a lot more kind of conditioning leading up into my personal best. And so now I'm just getting back into that, and I have a feeling that my performance is actually going to get better because I'm able to recover better, running basically the same paces, and I'm slightly heavier. So I think that it doesn't really affect performance, at least in the shorter events that I do, because I run track and field, right? And my events are the 800 and the 1600. And in those shorter events, to where you're getting into like a really high heart rate, the Tim Noakes, he talked about how it didn't really matter in those like shorter events. They basically perform the same. So I think as long as I'm just training hard, then I'll catch up to my former self that was a lot lighter, even though he was faster. But yeah, going on to the more personal side of things is just because like I feel way better on the diet without carbs. I used to kind of overcomplicate things like, oh, what do I eat? I should eat this and then this and then this thing, and I can have this thing. Right now, since I'm on a ketogenic carnivore diet, right? I don't any carbs. I don't even eat plants, right? It's so simple. Like the rules are so simple. Eat meat. And I don't even consider anything else. And like I'm not super strict about it. If there's some spices or there's some like onion chunks on my food, I'm not gonna be like, oh no. Like yeah, I'll try and like pick them off, but I'm not gonna be like upset if I have a little bit. But I don't eat any carbs basically. I think the most amount of carbohydrates that I may eat may come from like the processed meats that I have. I just learned this recently that bratwurst and sausage actually have like some sugar in them, and I was actually so kind of like heartbroken whenever I learned that. I was like, wait a minute, bro, I've been eating I've been eating this stuff for way oh no, but it is what it is. There isn't a crap ton of them in there, and I think as long as I don't go ham, get it, ham, bacon, bratwurst, that's a good one. But as long as I don't go ham on those and I just kind of moderate my intake, I think I should be good. A massive problem that I had with carbs, just in general, was I had to be super rigorous with how I was tracking them. Otherwise, I would overeat and I would just go way over calories and whatnot. And honestly, like, it is good sometimes in life, I think, to have kind of that level of like rigorous control over your diet. So you're like monitoring everything to the gram and you're kind of maybe obsessing about it a little bit, just making sure like, okay, I'm doing this right, I'm doing this right. But after a while, it just becomes like mentally taxing, in my opinion. And maybe there'll be a time where I go back to that and I just kind of like track my carbs a little bit more carefully and whatnot. But like honestly, like right now, it's so simple. It just makes my life easier, less stress whenever it comes to food. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have 24 ounces of beef. We're good. Like that's it. I don't have to worry about, okay, I'm gonna have 100 grams of rice with this amount of chicken, and I need another. Like, it isn't like as like cerebral ADHD. Oh, I need like. I just think there's a lot less stress on me. The next reason why I cut out carbs as an athlete is just because I got whack energy from it. And maybe that's because I wasn't eating upwards in the ranges like 300 to 400 grams of carbs a day. But honestly, like I couldn't stomach that. Like I weigh probably 150 pounds, 145 ish, within that range, right? I can't really stomach that many carbs in a day without sacrificing my protein intake. And I always just felt kind of trash if I had too low of fat intake. And so I just never got up into the huge amount of carbs to where I was eating, a lot of carbs constantly throughout the day. So my energy was actually really, really whack. I'm sure there's some people, if you eat carbs on like a consistent basis, your energy's probably pretty fine, especially if you eat some like starchy stuff like potatoes and whatnot and like rice. I'm sure that energy burns a little bit better. But for me personally, I would always get super whack energy. Like I would get these spikes and then crash, spike and then crash. And it's just, I feel awful a lot of the time. And then other times I'd feel really, really good for maybe like 10 minutes. And then I just like crash and burn. But now on a ketogenic diet where I have zero carbs, right? My energy is just this, like the entire day. And it goes up a little bit when I work out, goes down a little bit if I eat a big meal, and whenever I'm getting ready for bed, it kind of goes down a little bit. Or if I'm bored, I'll kind of like, but in general, my energy is like rock solid, and my brain is so much clearer throughout the same time as well. I'm able to make just better decisions throughout my life. I feel like I'm smarter, I'm more intelligent. I'm able to, you know, pick out different things a little bit easier. I'm not as ignorant. And it's I'm gonna tell you this story. So I remember for a while in my life, I always had this brain fog kind of permeating throughout my life. And what's funny is I would be talking to people sometimes and I would really actually genuinely care what they were going to say. Like I remember I used to have a girlfriend back in the day, right? And I'd be listening to her speak and I would see her mouth moving, right? Or I would turn my head just a little bit and I wasn't really like paying attention. And my mind would just like stop functioning. And she'd say something. I'd be like, what? What? Like, and she'd have to repeat herself constantly. That's probably why she broke up. But I don't know. I just feel like I caused so much more mental anguish to the people I spoke to and to myself because I got frustrated, bro. I was like, what? Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, there's just so much more mental difficulty because my brain wasn't functioning. And now I feel like my brain is just on like it's on a different wavelength of functioning now that I have way less brain fog, and I don't know. I'm glad with the current results. I'm glad that I'm where I'm at now, but it's just like I think a lot less mental anguish could have been experienced had I don't know, been on a keto had I learned about a keto diet earlier. So that sort of thing. It's just kind of funny thinking back about those times. I just think like I just feel so stupid. Like I was so stupid back in the day. And truth be told, like I was like 15 back then, and even I was still eating carbs when I was 16. Like I was, and now I'm probably not like the smartest that I could be, but you know what I mean. It's kind of interesting looking back on those times. But yeah, energy rock solid now. Next, and the final reason why I eat absolutely zero carbohydrates as an endurance athlete is because I view sugar as a drug. I view carbohydrates as a form of a drug almost. Because at the end of digestion for basically every single carbohydrate that you eat, besides fiber, it's going to end up as sugar in your bloodstream. So that means if you eat potatoes, which is a starch, it's going to break down, turn into sugar in your blood. If you eat fruit, it's already sugar. It's a fructose in your blood, sugar, boom. I view sugar as a drug because it lights up the dopamine centers in your brain. It's addictive. It's super easy to overconsume. There's a lot of similarities between sugar and other sorts of addictive drugs, and I'm just not a fan of that. Okay, I'm not a big drug guy. It's gonna be not a big drug guy. And I think, sure, sugar can be enjoyed every now and then, but I think there's certain parameters that you want to surround those around, right? I talk about this in a video I actually recorded today, talking about if I were to eat junk food or eat sugar, it would mostly be in a setting with, friends or family and sort of like on like certain occasions, right? So I would have, maybe like cinnamon rolls for Christmas or something like that. Like my mom, she's kind of made this tradition of making cinnamon rolls for Christmas every single year. And, maybe she'll make cookies or something or, have some like pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving, right? Very rare occasions, right? It won't be like every other week or something I have like some sweetie tasty thing. But for now, I'm locked in. So I'm not gonna have the cinnamon rolls for Christmas. Maybe next year. But I'm locked in because I want to get lean. I want to get in shape for competitive running, track and field. And I just don't think that having any sort of, like birthday cake or any sort of like whack drug that's going to throw me off my game is going to be conducive to my goals, because I think I'm genuine. Like this is a side tangent, but I think I'm a little bit behind because I'm not some cross country runner. I'm not some dude who's been running since he was like 3 years old. I think I'm behind in the events that I want to get better at. But I think if I stay locked in on my diet and I'm locked in with my nutrition, that's a competitive advantage I have over other guys. And if I stay locked in with that and I get better with my training, maybe, just maybe, I can compete with some of the top dudes. Now that remains to be seen, but I think I can do it. But for now, I'm gonna stay zero carb. I'm gonna stay low carb. Maybe in the future I'll have it in some limited capacity, but for now I'll stay zero carb. With that being said, if you enjoy carbs and you feel good on them and you think it helps your performance, okay, that's fine. I'm not here to, like convert you into the keto carnivore cult. I'm not. That's not my goal. Right? I think the kind of like echo chamber that some people get stuck in isn't a helpful thing. I just think it's helpful for people to try and encourage it, to be like, okay, this is what I did. Maybe you should try it out. And I genuinely think you should try it out. But I think trying to like indoctrinate people, say this is the only way. Oh, you're gonna kill yourself by eating carbs. Like, whatever, man. As long as you're not eating like ultra processed garbage, I think you're doing well for life. Like 70%, like a majority of the average person's diet is pretty garbage. So I think if you're above that and you just eat real food, you're in like the top 10% of people. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. Anyways, I would encourage you to try a keto diet because in a low carb diet because it has helped me so much in my life. But if you don't want to, fine. As long as you're living a healthy life outside of that, you do you, man. I'm perfectly fine with that. But yeah, that's just kind of my view on that. But I'm not gonna really eat that many carbs, at least for the foreseeable future. And I would encourage you to try it. So yeah, that's all I got. If you like what I'm saying, if you like this video, you should go subscribe. Go watch all my videos. Do all the YouTube stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Be better and have a W day.